Today is 19th of January and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So in the today's video, we are going to discuss entire Hindu newspaper along with the articles, their background, the way forward. And now, before moving, I would like to tell you that you can download explainer PDF of or the notes that we are going to discuss here from our Telegram channel, and the link for Telegram channel is given in description box in YouTube. Now, moving on, first of all, I would like to show you the overview of entire newspaper so that you can understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper. Now, starting up, so first article, Tripura, Meghalaya and Nagaland to vote in February. So, election schedule of three states, that is Tripura, Meghalaya and Nagaland, has been announced, and then there are certain by-polls also that are to be conducted in some of the constituencies. Okay, you are not required to go and follow the schedule, okay, because every year there are the assembly elections going on in some or the other state. Then further moving on, will end BJP misrule, says KCR, political article, no need to go in this particular direction. Then there are advertisements. LG behaving like a tribal chieftain to please bosses. So in the regional section, we see this thing that there is the confrontation between Delhi government and the Lieutenant Governor's office that is continuing. Now guys, understand this thing. As we talk about this regional section, this is this Delhi edition. If you have different newspaper, your regional section might be different, but usually much important articles are not here. In this section, there are some basically law and order related, crime related, okay, such kind of issues are there. You no need to go in these particular articles. Then moving on guys, the same regional issues, advertisements have been carried, fine. So we will completely be skipping this. Okay, now moving on guys, here we see this thing, spot bellied eagle all spotted in AP's Shashachalam. We'll see this particular article with respect to exam. Then coming to editorial section, first article, admonishment that endanger the constitution. So we'll see this particular article guys, as 2023 will mark 50 years of the Keshwaranda Bharti case. So important dimensions of this article will take. Then further moving on, signals of a slow return to peace in Syria. So basically guys, from a last few years between Turkey and Syria, a lot of confrontations, a lot of conflicts have happened. But now we see this particular thing that they are trying to create a kind of a ceasefire, or they are trying to normalize the situations. Now understand this thing, that this particular article contains the too much of political details within the matters of Turkey and Syria. Now with respect to our exam point of view, article doesn't contain much of substance, because understand this particular thing, that when the foreign relations or international issues are concerned, you need to see or track those issues which will have a kind of an implication on Indian interest. Fine. Then moving on. Now here the side article, check do not cross, government should work towards systemic reform, not attack the judiciary. So guys, we have seen this particular thing that over the past few years, past few days, there are confrontation between judiciary and executive that has happened. Now the same article is this one, that is admonishment that endanger the constitution. So I'll include this article here only. Okay, we'll take that. Then risks and rewards. So recently we have seen that the 5 men died in Tamil Nadu in the events of Jallikattu and Manju Viratu, which was being held. Okay, so basically it has been said that such sports or such, for example, Jallikattu, the bull taming festival, they are needed to be exercised with caution, and incentivization of such kind of things should not happen. Now see this particular thing guys, Supreme Court will be giving its ruling on the matter of Jallikattu, whether it can be conducted or whether it cannot be conducted. In past few days, many articles on this line already had come. We have seen that also. Now, moving on, the futility of underbalancing China. We'll see this particular article guys, as what the article is talking about. Fine. Then the fragile edifice of the MVA Trioca. Now the article is a political article. No need to go in this particular article. Then further moving on, fish and fries in daily diet of many in northeast, east and Goa. So guys, here graphs have been given that in different states, how many people are eating fried food, how many people are drinking colas, aerated drinks, etc. Now understand this thing, you are not required to track in every state how many percentage of people drink cola, how many percentage of people drink eat fried foods, but just guys understand one particular thing, that when we talk about guys these kind of foods and drinks, they are serious threat to the health Now, basically, it has been provided by WHO as well as the Lancet Health Journal that today the burden of non-communicable disease has increased, it has surpassed the communicable diseases. And these non-communicable diseases are called as the lifestyle diseases, which are because of the poor lifestyle. And in poor lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, fine, sedentary lifestyle comes, then poor diet comes. Poor diet is a very big reason for heart strokes, okay, and many such kind of conditions. And here, when we talk about the poor nutrition, these fried foods, fizzy drinks are a biggest culprit. Then text and context section. So the conflict behind eco-sensitive zone. So this entire one-page article has come on the eco-sensitive zone. Okay, so we'll see this entire article. We'll see that what are important dimensions that have come here. Then going to the next page, text and context, viral nutrition new study. Viral nutrition new study reveals microbes nourished by consuming viruses. We'll see this particular study as what it has come. But guys, understand this thing that as any new scientific study will come, fine, they are peer reviewed then by the other fellow scientists. So what you need to see, you need to just take the gist of that particular study. You are not required to go too much in the hairline details, because every coming week, month, there are hundreds of studies that are being published. You cannot simply keep the track of all. Okay, so you need to be very careful while looking in these particular matters. Then further moving on, guys, further moving on. Okay, so objective of SIMI against basic fabric of a constitution. So Student Islamic Movement of India, it has been said that they are mobilizing the support to create a caliphate and all such kind of a things. Now guys, fine, the article has become more of a politicized issue, though there are some credible threats that are also there. Then further moving on, after that, NSIM chief claims Jains pacified by government decision in Sammed Shikharji. So we have seen, guys, that in Parasnath, in Jharkhand, for Sammed Shikharji, which was to be made as a tourist destination, the Jains were protesting. Now, this particular article, guys, fine, is talking about that they have been pacified. Then fewer invitees for Republic Day parade, not much important substance in this article. Then guys, this particular page is majorly containing the political articles. Trinamool is the only credible alternative and all such things. You are not required to go too much in detail. Now this article is important. Report flags widening learning gaps. Now this particular article, it is talking about, it has given the highlights about the recently released annual status of education report, which is released by the Pratham NGO. So we'll see the what article is talking about. Then Cuba developing cancer vaccine, cheese daughter. Center alone cannot determine fake news, says Editor Guild. Now this particular article, guys, if you remember, we have seen yesterday that it was provided by government that PIB, Press Information Bureau, will fact check the news articles, and if any news article has been fact checked by PIB and it has been flagged as fake news, then social media needs to remove that particular news article from their platform. So PIB is taking that particular power under the IT rules 2021. But here the Editors Guild, they say that why the center alone have the power to determine what is a fake news. Many number of times the news which might not be, the news which is not favoring government, or news which might be showing government in the bad light, might be called as a fake news. So that is not something that should be there. Then coming to world page, Ukraine's interior minister among 15 dead in helicopter crash. Imran Khan's party dissolves assembly. Okay, Sri Lanka southern tourism has increased. Okay, though it is not anywhere on the pre-pandemic level, but as we see these particular articles, they are talking about the evolutionary details, fine, the issues which has an impact of India's foreign foreign policy. Such article is not there. Then business page, oil demand may see high on Chinese COVID-19 reopening. Then Adani to use $2.5 billion share sale funds for capex, repaying debt. Now corporate trends, etc. have been given. Okay. So, and then we have the sports page. Okay, now guys, understand two pages, that is the business page as well as international page. You need to understand this thing that every other news is not important. You need to see that whether a news will be holding some substance for your exam or not. That should be a kind of an analysis that you should do. Now, moving on, guys, in this particular in this particular direction. Now, moving on in this particular direction. So guys, we will be starting up with one by one now. Okay, now in every class, guys, we start with the GS quotation. Now this particular quotation can be used to complement your answers in exam. So today we'll take quotation from J.S. Mill, John Stuart Mill. So J.S. Mill says that bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. So when we talk about the democracy, the citizens' apathy, citizens' indifference is the biggest threat to democracy, because when citizens will develop an attitude of apathy, when they'll not be concerned in the matter, in the national matters and the national affairs, it opens up an opportunity for bad people that they can take matters in their own hand. So rather than curtailing bad men, active citizens need to emerge in a democracy. So this idea can be used in GS paper number 2, as well as GS paper number 4, ethics. So that is all about GS quotation. And now let's take first article for today. Okay, so the first article that we are going to take is from text and context section, the conflict behind eco-sensitive zones. The conflict behind eco-sensitive zones. Now this particular article, guys, will be important for GS paper number 3, environment versus development debate. Environment versus development debate. Okay, now let's start with this particular article. So guys, actually what has happened, if you are reading the newspapers, you might have seen this thing, and in fact we have done it also a few weeks back, where what has happened, Kerala is protesting. Why Kerala is protesting? And not only Kerala is protesting, many of the states are protesting on the notification of ESZ, that is eco-sensitive zones. So we'll understand that what are these eco-sensitive zones, why they have become controversial, what are the reservations of the state government in this particular direction. So let's see that what are these new notifications that have come. Now, first of all, guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about ecologically sensitive zone, ESZ, these are the strips of land around protected areas such as national park or the sanctuaries. See this particular thing. Now, the protected areas, for example, this is a national park. Now, national park has the highest degree of protection. It has highest degree of protection. Developmental activities are not allowed in national park. Industrial activities are not allowed in national park. So they are created so animals living in these national parks, they are not threatened and they can live in their natural habitat. Now, point is that here there is highest protection. But the moment we come out of national park, there also needs to be a kind of a zone which gives a kind of a gradual or a marginal protection as well. Understand this thing. Animals, they don't understand that, okay, we don't need to go outside this particular boundary. National park is largely a zone where the animals' habitat will lie, but eventually they'll be going beyond these national parks as well. So point is that we also need to reserve some marginal area beyond a national park, beyond sanctuaries, and here there will also be a kind of a marginal protection. There will also be the marginal protection that will be given. Certain industrial activities will not be allowed here also. Fine. So this particular strip of land, it is called as eco-sensitive zone. It is called as ecologically sensitive zone. So what ecologically sensitive zones are? They are intended to safeguard the protected areas, national park, wildlife sanctuaries by giving a transitioning zone. Now, as we talk about, guys, the protected areas in India, national park sanctuaries, they constitute around 5.26% of India's land area. It is protected under national parks and sanctuaries. In total, we have 108 national parks and we have 564 wildlife sanctuaries which have been notified by the government under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So around these 108 national parks, around these 564 wildlife sanctuaries, certain land strip will be reserved, which will be called as the ecologically sensitive zones, ESZ. Now, basically, guys, it has been provided that the protected areas such as national park and wildlife sanctuaries, fine, there are the protected areas. Then there is one more category, that is the reserve forest. Now in protected areas, there are lot many regulations that are there. A lot of activities are not allowed in the protected areas. Now this is something that is there. Fine, keep this particular thing in your mind. Now basically guys, as we have protected certain areas where human encroachments cannot happen, humans cannot disturb, it fundamentally comes in conflict with one law that has always been there since 2006, that is Forest Rights Act 2006. Now see this particular thing: tribal people and animals, just a minute, tribal people and wildlife, tribal people and wildlife, they often inherit the same area, same zone. Tribals often live in forest, wildlife also lives in forest. In the past, tribals and wildlife has lived harmoniously with each other. Tribals and wildlife has lived harmoniously with each other. Now guys, what has happened since the time Britishers came? Britishers alienated tribals from their own land. Why Britishers alienated tribals? Because Britishers wanted to use forest as the resource for fuel, their factories, as a raw material, etc. So what happened? Tribals were alienated from the forest. They were believed to be encroachers on the forest. Their land rights were not entertained. Their community rights on the forest were not entertained by the Britishers. Now this led to social injustice towards the tribal people because they have always lived in the forest. Now in order to undo this injustice that was happening with the tribal people, Government of India enacted Forest Right Act of 2006. Under this particular act, tribal and other forest dwellers, other forest dwellers are the people who are living in forest for last 3 generations or 75 years. They were given individual rights, and they were given community rights. Individual rights on land, maximum land ownership up to 4 hectares of land can be given to them. Individual right. Community right means they will have land on pond, on forest. They can collect the non-forest produce, all such kind of things they can collect. Fine. So they were given the rights. Now point is that guys, forest dwellers, tribal people are living in forest and they are giving rights in the forest, but at the same time wildlife is also there. So point is that Wildlife Protection Act, Environment Protection Act, it has often come in conflict, with the Forest Right Act. So activists who always are concerned about the forest tribal people's rights, they provide this particular thing, that Wildlife Protection Act, environmental laws, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change doesn't concerns about them. But on the other hand, environmental activists, they say that the Forest Right Act has given a lot of land to tribal people in the forest, and because of that particular thing, animals are suffering. They are not able to get their habitat. So this confrontation between FRA and Wildlife Protection Act has always been there. Okay. Now coming to this particular point. So when we talk about the Forest Right Act, the full name of this particular act is Scheduled Tribe and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006. Now this particular act recognizes the customary rights, okay, as I have told you. Now under the Forest Right Act, Gram Sabha has been given the special power. So Gram Sabha has been given power to determine rights through open democratic processes. Now if you remember, we have seen that under Forest Right Act, tribal people will be given individual rights and community rights. So who will recognize that, who will get these individual rights, who will get the land and all such kind of thing? It will be determined by the Gram Sabha. And that thing will have through the open democratic process. Now, Gram Sabhas are also the statutory authorities. Okay. Now, suppose guys, this is a forest. And within a forest, there is a tribal hamlet. Okay, tribal hamlet. Now this tribal hamlet has been recognized as a panchayat. So we have one more act for that, that is PISA Act, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas. So when 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act came, which gave the constitutional status to panchayat and urban local bodies, with the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, scheduled areas were left outside that. But Then came PISA in 1996. Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, and PISA provided that even in tribal regions panchayats can be constituted. So the tribal regions also, tribal regions within the forest, they could be constituted as panchayat. Okay, so panchayats are formed. Now this is a forest. Now this particular part of forest is coming into the zone of panchayat. So here what will happen, gram sabha will be the body which will be take care of this particular part of forest. Okay, gram sabha will be the body that will take care of this particular part of the forest. So the gram sabhas, these are the statutory authority and they are empowered to conserve, protect and manage forest, wildlife, biodiversity lying within the traditional village boundary. So they will be conserving the wildlife and everything here. And this particular area of forest, this particular area of the forest, fine, this particular area of the forest, it will be called as a community forest resource. Community forest resource. This is something that is happening. Now, basically guys, what has happened? Government had recently notified 341 environmental sensitive, ecologically sensitive zone in 29 states and 5 union territories. And apart from them, 85 ESZs are also awaiting notification. Now, what will be these ESZ? They will be notified outside the protected areas. That is something that has come. Now, the point that is coming here is that, guys, basically, the size of this ESZ, it can vary. For example, it has been provided that ESZ, fine, it can range from 0 to 45 kilometers around the protected areas. For example, Pin Valley National Park in Himachal Pradesh. So outside this national park, 45 kilometer of land strip outside this particular national park has been protected as ecologically sensitive zone. Then there are many states where ecologically sensitive zone exceeds 10 kilometer beyond the national park or beyond the protected areas. In Kerala, it extends to 1 kilometer as well. So from 0 kilometer to up to 45 kilometer land outside the protected area can be reserved as ESZ, ecologically sensitive zone, and these many ESZs have already been notified. Now, when we talk about, guys, this ecologically sensitive zone, what are the problems? Why the states are protesting? Reason number one for the problem. See, many of these ecologically sensitive zone, fine, particularly within the 10 states, they fall within scheduled areas notified under 5th schedule of Constitution. So we have 5th schedule and 6th schedule. Okay, so under basically the tribal and scheduled areas under 5th schedule, they have given a considerable autonomy with respect to their internal affairs, and President of India under Article 244 can notify the scheduled areas under the 5th schedule. So many of ESZ are encroaching on scheduled areas under the schedule 5. So point is that their tribal people will not have autonomy to govern that particular land. On them a lot of obligations will be imposed. They cannot carry developmental activity. Okay, so point is that they are protesting that our constitutional autonomy that has been given, it is being taken back. Then next thing that has come here is that, see, when we talk about the PISA, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, it recognizes Gram Sabhas to be competent authority to safeguard and preserve community resource, forest, revenue, land, etc. Now the point is that Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change recently came. They issued this notification for ecologically sensitive zone, but they have not consulted with Gram Sabha, they have not consulted with Gram Panchayat. Fine. Moreover, what has happened? Indian Forest Act, Wildlife Protection Act, Environment Protection Act, fine, particularly these ecologically sensitive zone, as we are talking about the land that is to be reserved, it has been notified under Environment Protection Act. Okay, but they are not complying with PISA and they are not complying with the FRA. Forest Right Act, I told you that their rights are to be respected on the land. They are not complying them. So what has happened? Again, FRA has come to loggerheads with the ecologically sensitive zone. So this is something that has happened. Moreover, recently, guys, the forest conservation rules also got passed. Forest conservation rules also got passed. And these foreign conservation rules, now earlier, if any forest land is being diverted for any non-forest purpose, fine, then compliance was to be taken with FRA. Forest Right Act, Gram Sabha is to be consulted. But now such compliance is not needed. So tribal people, they are saying this thing that systemically their rights on their land, their traditional rights are being taken back. They are being rolled back. They are not being consulted. This is a very big issue that has been raised. Moreover, National Commission for Scheduled Tribe wants that the forest right compliance procedure is to be restored. If you remember, here I have just discussed new forest conservation rules. They clearly provided that if we want to divert land, will not comply under FRA, will not take the consent of Gram Sabha. This should be restored. So National Commission for Scheduled Tribe is also talking about this particular thing. Now, these new ecologically sensitive zone, these new ecologically sensitive zones, this region that will be reserved. Now, what activities will be allowed there, what activities will be not allowed, will be prohibited, who will take decision on that particular thing? So basically guys, chief wildlife warden will list all the activities that will be allowed, that will be prohibited, that will be restricted under these ecologically sensitive zone. Now state government can submit their reservations in this particular capacity. Okay, but guys, it has been provided that there is a very big possibility that in these ecologically sensitive zone, tribal people's rights will not be conserved. This is something that has come. Now recently Supreme Court gave the directive that this ecologically sensitive zone needs to be implemented early. These need to be implemented. Supreme Court has provided that ecologically sensitive zone are needed to be applied within a 10-kilometer radius of yet to be proposed protected areas as well. So many national parks are there which are there in the proposal. Okay, so yet to be proposed protected areas, there also this ecologically sensitive zone will be applicable. States can increase or decrease the area. Okay, but Supreme Court clearly provided that new permanent structures cannot come up for any purpose within ESZ. Now governments are saying this thing that they are erecting electricity poles so that electricity power can be given to the households in the forest. They are trying to build much of infrastructure so that tribal people can be given basic amenities. So if we cannot erect new structures, how we will be able to provide welfare schemes, basic amenities to people living in tribal regions? Moreover, particularly if we take the example of Kerala, see, you see this particular thing guys, that Kerala, they are out, basically Western Ghats pass through the entire Kerala. Then there are backwaters of Kerala, then there are coastal regions of Kerala, lagoons are there in Kerala. Now the point is that somewhere coastal regulation zone applies, somewhere ecological sensitive zone applies, some region are entirely national park, some region are entirely wildlife sanctuary, then there is Western Ghats. So the land which is available for urbanization, for development, is very limited in Kerala. And now if around the national park also ecologically sensitive zone land strip is to be reserved, still a lot more pressure on the Kerala's land resources will be created, and because of that particular thing, the developmental activities will be stalled. So therefore people are protesting against this ecologically sensitive zone notification that has come. So guys, I hope that you have understood it. Fine. And now moving to the next article. This is a very important topic, moving to next article. Now, viral nutrition study reveals microbes nourished by consuming virus. Okay, now guys, what has happened, first of all, let me tell you. So basically, yes, what has happened in the University of Nebraska Lincoln, a new study has been revealed, and this particular study provides this particular thing, that a particular kind of a plankton, they consumes virus, they feed on virus. Okay, so the consumption of viruses returns energy to food chains. Okay, so the report has been published. Now one thing I want to tell you guys here very, very clearly, you are not required to be a scientist, you are not required to do PhD on this particular topic. Because see this thing, that whatever reports are published, these reports are not conclusive evidence. Okay, they demonstrate one thing, then peer reviews will be carried. Moreover, one report is published in newspaper, but every day hundreds of such journals and reports are being published. So yes, you need to understand basic findings, but at the same time, guys, and I'll show you that how these some important concepts can help us in solving some questions also, but you don't need to do PhD. That is something that I want to tell, because many number of times I see aspirants that okay, this thing came in the news and then they are wasting a lot of time, they even forget it after 10 days, and even in exam they don't hold much of relevance. Okay, chalo, let's see what this particular article is talking about. Okay, so yes, now guys, first of all, as we talk about the viruses, okay, now viruses have become quite popular. They have come quite in limelight because of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, COVID-19 virus. Fine. Now, first of all, as we talk about, guys, the viruses, some very basic things first we'll discuss, and then we'll go in this particular finding. Viruses, they are the single most populous life forms on earth. Now, though you cannot see virus with the naked eye because they are very small, very minuscule, not visible by naked eye, but they are so numerous, that if we accumulate all the viruses together and if we take their biomass, it will outweigh the total humans that are living on the earth by the factor of 1010. 1010 times more viruses biomass is there on this particular world, though you cannot see them. Now, when we talk about viruses, guys, are they living or they non-living? Fine, are they living or they non-living? So basically the point is that viruses are inert outside the living body. They are inert outside living body, or they behave as like they are non-living outside the body, but the moment they enter in the body of a host, they start to replicate. So they are inert outside the living body, but once they enter a host body, they hijack the cellular machinery, they replicate their copies, and they infest that entire system. Okay, now basically this particular report that has been provided, it has said that a particular plankton, a particular genus of plankton can consume viruses, and they grow, they divide to consume more and more viruses. So suppose there are more viruses, this plankton will divide, it will grow to consume that even more number of viruses. So these are some planktons that have been discovered. Now what are the planktons, and what is this special type of plankton that consume virus? So first of all, what are planktons? Guys, planktons are very small microscopic organisms that can move along with the current. They are found in water, ocean, water bodies. They cannot move at their own, they just dwindle across the current. So we have the planktons. Now guys, basically within these planktons there is a specific type of plankton, that is Halteria plankton, that is being discussed here. Halteria plankton. Fine, Halteria planktons, they are ciliates. Ciliates means that they have hair-like structures called cilia. Okay, they are ciliates. For example, this is a plankton, they will have this hair-like structure, so therefore they are called as ciliates. So Halteria plankton is there. Now this Halteria plankton, where they are found? They are found in large numbers in the fresh water bodies, that is the lake, river, etc. On their surface, this plankton is found. Now these planktons are heterotroph. Now there are two types: heterotroph, autotroph. Autotroph are those who will manufacture their own food. Heterotrophs, they don't manufacture their own food. Now when we talk about autotroph, very important aspect for your prelims examination, ecology and environment. Autotrophs, phytoplanktons, they are autotrophs. Phytoplanktons, they are autotrophs. They can make their own food under the sunlight. Heterotrophs, they are not Halteria planktons, they are not autotrophs, they are heterotrophs. Fine. So what they consume? They consume virus. And they can consume 10,000 to million virus particles one day. And if number of virus increases, their population can also increase to consume that particular virus. Now this is actually, it also plays a very important role in marine food chain. How? See, virus will be consumed by the Halteria plankton, then this Halteria plankton will be consumed by the zooplankton. Zooplankton. Now zooplankton, they consume the halteria. Now these zooplanktons, fine, they will be consumed by larger fish, fine, and then larger fish can be consumed by humans. So halteria, phytoplankton can be consumed by zooplankton. Phytoplankton can also be consumed by zooplankton. So it's supporting the entire food chain, and these viruses are these phytoplanktons are consuming the viruses. So these are some important part of the findings that has been there. Now guys, I hope that you have understood it. Okay. So now moving to next article. Okay. Report flags widening learning gaps. Report flags widening learning gaps. Now this particular article will be seeing with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to education. Issues related to education. Now, so what has happened guys here? Recently, annual status of education report has been released by the NGO Pratham. Now, ASAR, annual status of education report, it is an iconic report which gives trends with respect to the education, particularly the school level education. Now, according to the latest finding of the ASAR, which is released by Pratham NGO, they have provided that there are the mixed impacts on education. Now, first of all, some basic information. The annual status of education report 2022, it is released by Pratham NGO, and Pratham NGO is a non-governmental, as an NGO it is a non-governmental organization, and ASAR, it conducts a household survey. It conducts household survey, fine, covers around 6.9 lakh children in the age of 3 to 16, in the age of 3 to 16, and they assess learning gaps if they are there, learning outcomes, and all such kind of things. Now, the findings of this latest report, they are something like this. Let's discuss these findings one by one. So, findings are this. Number one, as per ASAR report, it has been provided that enrollment in the schools in the age group of 6 to 14 years has actually increased after pandemic. This is a good news. Fine, enrollment, school enrollment has increased after pandemic. They say this thing that enrollment increased from 97.2% to around 98.4% in 2022. So this is a positive news. You can use it in your answers. Secondly, what they have said that the proportion of children who are in the age of 3 to 16 group, who are not currently enrolled into the school, their number has decreased. Again, a good news. Students drop out, the students who are not in the schools, students who are not into the schools, their number has been reduced from 2.8% to 1.6%. Good news. Then thirdly, they also say this particular thing that government schools, they have also seen a sharp increase in enrollment. Now, school children, they are studying in government school as well as they are studying in private school. Now, understand this particular thing. Government schools enrollment, they increased from 65.6% to 72.9% in 2022. Now, this is a mixed finding. Why? Number one, as enrollment in government school is increasing, and at the same time, total enrollment is increasing. So we find this thing that many students are finding their way in the school. Secondly, many of the parents who were sending their children earlier to private schools, now they started to send their children into government school, not because their preference got changed, but because they have faced financial challenges in aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic. So what they have started to do, they have started to send their children in government schools. So this is the reason that enrollment in government schools have increased. Then another findings of this particular report are with respect to the basic literacy, speaking skills, etc. Now, quality of learning outcome in students have got impacted in a negative way. Now, let's see this particular thing. It's being provided, for example, basic literacy levels have got reduced. Okay, now just if we see this particular thing, guys, you find that the children who are in class 3, the children who are there in the class 3 in government or private schools, Okay, how many of them can read the text of class 2? How many children of class 3 can read the text of class 2? Not many. Earlier in 2018, 27.3% children in class 3 were able to read the text of class 2. It got reduced to 20.5%. Now, guys, you don't need to remember absolute data, but as we talk about learning outcomes in India's education, we can use this particular data to authenticate, to strengthen our statements. So, point is that the children who can read such text, their number got reduced from 27 to 20. This is something which is something really serious. And it has also been provided the proportion of children enrolled in class 5 in government or private school who can read the text of class 2, their number fell from 50.5% to 42% in 2022. So even children in class 5, all of them are not able to read the text of class 2. Such a big problem. Earlier 50% can read. That was obviously not a good number, but even that now number has gone down to 42.8%. And then even in reading ability, the same problem is there. So the basic reading ability are small for class 8 students. 69.6% children enrolled in government or private school, they can read the basic text. Okay. Now, fine. Sorry. So earlier it was 73% in 2018, and now it has went to 69.6%. So their reading ability, okay, the writing ability, all such abilities have went drastically down as per annual status of education report. Moreover, as I have told you guys that enrollment in government schools have increased, so we find this particular thing that what has happened, families have withdrawn their students from private schools so that they can save money. They're sending their children in government school. However, at the same time, they're investing money in private tuitions. So this is, guys, the entire trend of annual status of education report that has been provided in this particular report. So that is all about this particular topic, guys. Now moving to next article. Okay, a minute. Okay, so this is actually the editorial article, admonishment that endangers the constitution. Okay, I don't know why this picture is not visible here. Okay, because it should have been here. Chalo, anyhow, you can see it in your PDF that has been given to you. So this is the article, that is admonishment of constitution. Now this particular article, guys, we'll see with respect to, yes. So admonishment that endanger the constitution, this particular article we are going to discuss here. Now this particular article will be important for GS paper number 2, executive versus judiciary issues. GS paper number 2, executive versus judiciary issues. Okay. Now, first of all, guys, before going in this particular article, I just want to give you some of a background information, and it goes something like this, that 9th April 2023, that is this particular year, we are going to celebrate 50th anniversary of Keshwananda Bharti case. Keshwananda Bharti case. So Keshwananda Bharti case was the judgment that was given in 1973, where Supreme Court gave basic structural doctrine. As per basic structure doctrine, there are certain parts of the constitution that cannot be amended. Okay, now that basic structure doctrine has been quite instrumental in preserving many of the ideas of constitution that constituted the spirit of constitution, that constituted the core of constitution. Many such ideas got protected. Now, what has happened? In last few years, we have seen this thing, that many number of times Parliament tried to become supreme, and Parliament had tried to amend many of the sections of Constitution. Supreme Court stopped such kind of an amendments by using the Keshwananda Bharti judgment. Now, in past few days, guys, we have seen this thing, that between executive and judiciary, there is a kind of a flat that is going on. We have seen this particular thing, that earlier the law ministry and then vice president of India has multiple occasions they have criticized judiciary. They are saying this particular thing, that in judicial appointment processes, there is a lot of nepotism and favoritism that goes. Now, you might already be knowing this thing that when we talk about appointment of judiciary at a higher level, that is the Supreme Court and High Court, those appointments are done only by the members of judiciary itself. There is a collegium system, as we know. So, if the judge is to be appointed at Supreme Court, then 5 members, Chief Justice of India and 4 senior-most judges of Supreme Court. This collegium of 5 members will appoint the judge at the level of Supreme Court. If judges are to be appointed at High Court, then collegium will constitute Chief Justice of India and 2 senior-most judges of Supreme Court. Point is that members of judiciaries are appointing their own fellow members of judiciary. It brings nepotism, favoritism. It has been criticized. And Vice President has again and again said that we in past brought National Judicial Appointment Commission. We in past brought National Judicial Appointment Commission. In this National Judicial Appointment Commission, this body was created to appoint a member of Supreme Court, appoint member of High Court, as well as to appoint, to transfer the judges of High Court, as well as for transfer of judges of High Court. This National Judicial Appointment Commission was created by virtue of 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. And this NJAC was made to replace collegium system. It was made to replace collegium system. That was something that happened. But Supreme Court, what it did, it said that this National Judicial Appointment Commission, it dilutes power of judiciary. And as per the basic structure doctrine, judiciary's power cannot be diluted. So this NJC is going against the basic structure doctrine. And Supreme Court said that 99th Constitutional Amendment Act is invalid. National Judicial Appointment Commission is invalid, it was said. Now Vice President in many number of times had said that this is wrong. And even Vice President had said that judiciary, according to Vice President had said that I don't believe in that basic structure doctrine. According to Vice President, it has been said that by using this basic structure doctrine of Keshwananda Bharati case, parliamentary sovereignty is being reduced. Parliamentary sovereignty is being reduced. That has been said by Vice President. Now, the point, guys, that has come here, is that basically Vice President outrightly is many number of times on Keshwananda Bharati case, whether it has given a lot of power to judiciary or whether it was a right intervention on that, doubts have been raised by the Vice President. Now, article says this thing that much of criticism of executive aimed at the functioning of collegium. It aimed at functioning of the collegium, which I already have showed you that it was upheld. Okay, Supreme government even tried to dilute it, but that also has been tackled by judiciary in the past. Now, the article is saying this particular thing, that genuine criticism of the collegium functioning, okay, the court's judgment is welcome. The criticism can be done, but seeing that government confirmed in Parliament recently that it has no plan to implement any systematic change in way we appoint judges, fine, it has done little to promote transparency in the process. What it means, I'll explain you in simple words, don't worry. See, on one hand, government is criticizing judiciary that they are not reforming collegium system, one thing. On second hand, what has happened, recently in Parliament, government outrightly provided this particular thing that we don't have any plans now to reform collegium system. So point is coming that if you don't have any plans to reform collegium system, then why you are outrightly criticizing judiciary all the time? Why you are outrightly saying this thing that basic structural doctrine has reduced the parliamentary sovereignty? Why these kind of things are happening? This is something that has been there. As we talk about constitution, it is the product of a collective vision. So many of the founding fathers of the constitution, fine, they distilled ideas across the world and they came with the best of the ideas that are needed for well-being of the citizens. Certain ideals were provided. Now, it has also been provided, guys, that though constitution is an organic document, it is an evolving document, it can be amended, parts can be changed using article 368 of the constitution, but basic ideas are there. The spirit of the constitution, the soul of the constitution, it cannot be amended. Fine. Now, see this thing, the constitution was adopted in 1950. Okay, it obviously will not stay the same today. It will be amended, but some parts cannot be changed. For example, can Parliament ever erase right to life given in Article 21? No. If Article 21, right to life or fundamental rights are completely removed, then what is the logic of Constitution? In that case, in that case, the Constitution of India will no longer be Constitution of India. Now, in Minerva Mills versus Union of India judgment, Minerva Mills Union of India judgment, Supreme Court has explained this particular thing, that Parliament too is a creature of the Constitution. Parliament has been created by Constitution, and Parliament also has to respect certain constitutional ideas. Parliament is not Parliament cannot completely bypass the Constitution of India. It has been provided. Is it clear or not? So in this particular capacity, Parliament cannot change certain basic aspects of Constitution that has been provided here, and Supreme Court have tried to uphold that particular philosophy by the Keshwananda Bharati case. So unduly, Keshwananda Bharati case, that it had diluted parliamentary sovereignty, saying such kind of a things is not entirely correct. Okay, so this is, guys, all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it. Now, basically, guys, when we read the editorial article particularly, see, many number of times, particularly in the editorial articles, they start from a particular background. They assume that you should know that thing by default. But no, we don't know such kind of a background sometimes. So therefore, knowing this particular background becomes very important. Now, the futility of underbalancing China. The futility of underbalancing China. This particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2. GS paper number 2. India-China relations, issues between, irritants between India and China. Now, the futility of underbalancing China. Now, basically, guys, this particular article is talking that India is not taking in consideration the Chinese threat that has been there. Now, we have seen this particular thing that over the past 2-3 years, China has started to flex its muscles around line of actual control. We have seen this thing that a traditional threat of India was Pakistan, and LOC, line of control, was a region where most of the Indians armed personnel were stationed. But now we are shifting focus from line of control to line of actual control, LAC, because Chinese threat has become more. Chinese threat has become a kind of a big irritant for India in the recent times. Now we have seen this particular thing, that we have tried to curtail India's tech coupling with China also. For example, in 2020, many of the apps from China that were allowed in India, they got banned. Many of critical components that we are importing from China, now we are reducing them. So tech dependence of India on China that was there, we are reducing that, and strategically we are trying to ensure that how Indian interest can be safeguarded in the aftermath of Chinese incursions that they have done in LAC. Okay, now the point is that, guys, the article is talking about this thing, that though we know Chinese threat is looming large, but we have not done comprehensive assessment of Chinese threat. How China is becoming the real challenge for India, comprehensive assessment has not been done on this particular capacity. Now, guys, point is that we are underplaying the Chinese factor. Okay, point is that it is not desirable for India to actively see. We are underplaying the Chinese factor. At the same time, it is also not possible that we station all the armed personnel on LAC. That is not possible for India. Responding to China could also potentially spread the fight. Okay, if we respond China in the same way, then again it might lead to full-fledged war. It is also a big problem. So we cannot station entire troops. We cannot respond as the China is doing that particular thing. Okay, China will create more flashpoints on the LAC. Third, India's underbalancing behavior is there. We are underplaying China, and this underbalancing behavior is a result of uncertain outcomes of military escalations. We are not responding to China. Why? Because we don't know that if we respond, how China will behave. This is some situation that has been there. Now the article is saying that we are not tackling China, we are not showing active response to the China, but this particular thing is making China more powerful in this particular region. China will take that India is not taking this particular is not pursuing this issue very actively. China will get more emboldened in its ambitions, and if China will get more emboldened, China will further try to infiltrate in Indian territories. Okay, fine. So this is something that has happened. Now article is talking about that India has certain options as how India should deal with China. What are the options? Option number 1, calibrated escalation. Calibrated escalation. Now what India can do? India can employ a tit for tat strategy. Tit for tat strategy. Now the point is that as China is occupying Indian territories, India can occupy Chinese territory. Fine. Occupying unmanned areas on the Chinese side. This is something that we can do. But at the same time, India needs to be prepared for the Chinese confrontations that will follow. This is one thing. Second thing, guys, that has been provided is that New Delhi could further raise the economic cost. New Delhi could further raise the economic cost for China. Now, you know this particular thing, guys. Recently, we have seen that current account deficit, the trade deficit with China is surpassing $100 billion. A lot of imports we do from China. Okay, so we can make that, we can use that particular dimension. If China will not contain its behavior, then we will decouple from China. So it will impose economic burden, economic cost on China. This is something that can be used. This is something that can be used. The next, guys, what can be provided? What can be provided? The next thing that is there. Okay, now this is the apt time that India should also consider nuclear modernization and should develop low yield weapons. Okay, this is something that might deter China, and according to the article, it is also been said that India should retest its thermonuclear weapons. It will create a kind of a deterrence in Chinese minds. And lastly, he said this thing that because of Chinese aggression, India had cultivated good relations with USA and the West so that they can counter China. So we should cultivate such more relations. More deeper relations with the West should be cultivated on the same lines. This has been suggested here. But guys, I don't completely agree with the views of the author here. Why? Because see this thing that developing nuclear weapons at this point of a time might messy up the situations even more. Moreover, we have seen this particular thing, guys, that India had got the waiver under nuclear supplier group in the past. India has been seen as a responsible nation vis-a-vis the nuclear capabilities of India is concerned. So testing such kind of a thing will invite many eyebrows against India, even by the countries who right now are having cordial relations. One thing. Second thing is, guys, that tit for tat. Okay, flexing, challenging China right now, though many people want to do that particular thing, but given present circumstances, it not be a very wise decision to do. However, yes, involving more strategically with West is a credible argument. It is a kind of a good suggestion that can be given. Okay, so that is all, guys, about it. Then next article, spot-bellied eagle owl spotted in AP's Andhra Pradesh Seshachalam forest for the first time. So guys, these two birds have been spotted in Andhra Pradesh. Fine, just you don't need to go beyond the scope of this particular article. So first is just a minute. The first is bellied eagle owl, Bubo nipalensis. Okay, this is this word. Okay, it has been found in Seshachalam forest. Seshachalam forest is in Andhra Pradesh. Now this is a rare bird to be found in Seshachalam. Earlier it has been found in Andhra Pradesh, but not in Seshachalam. Earlier it was found in Nagarjun Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve, NSTR. So this bird earlier was found in NSTR, that is the Nagarjun Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve, but now it has been found in Seshachalam forest of Andhra Pradesh. Therefore, it has come in the news. It is unique. Earlier it is not found here. Then the next bird that has been found. Now, yes, one more thing. This particular bird makes the scream similar to humans, and it is therefore called as the ghost of the forest. So if you are in Nagarjun Sagar Tiger Reserve or Sheshachalam Forest, you might hear the the voice of a human, okay, the scream of a human. You might think it is a ghost, but it is this owl. Fine, so don't need to be scared. Fine, so therefore it is called as the ghost of the forest, and also called as the devil bird in, it is also called as the devil bird in Sri Lanka. Fine, this one. Then one more owl has been found, that is the mottled wood owl, okay, and it has been found in the Chamla forest on the Tirupati Annamaya inter-district border in Andhra Pradesh. Now both of these birds are least concerned on IUCN red list. They are least concerned on IUCN red list. Fine. So this is, guys, about this particular article. Fine. Now with this we come to the mains practice question for today. So guys, apart from that, much relevant articles are not there in the today's newspaper. So mains practice question: the basic structure doctrine had helped save the constitution from being undermined through the misuse of parliamentary majority. Discuss along with some suitable examples. So this will be a 10 marker question. Okay, so that is all, guys, about it. And meanwhile, a very good morning to all of you. Sai Ganesh, Yasu, Pragati, Muthu, Mukul, Niranjan, Chaya, Pallavi, Bharat, Meenu, MD Films, Sandeep, Sai Agrotech, Aspirant, Libby Riba, Mukul, Richa, Step Forward, Puzzle, Arjuna Vibe, Lekhan Sagar, Sarika, Songam, Sunil, Swaroop, Chetna. Sir, include diagram and background knowledge of the topic. Fine, so we do that. We include the background knowledge and all those things. Okay, so if you read the articles, all the many things are there which are not there in article. Raj Shekhar, Pandi Santosh, Akash, Lakshmi Shukla. Sir, can contempt of court can be initiated against Vice President or MPs for questioning the court judgment? See, you need to understand this particular thing, that anyhow, when we talk about the contempt of court, many number of times has been criticized for its own flaws. Okay, so in this particular capacity, guys, the members of parliament, fine, as you were talking about, that can the contempt of court can be issued against the member of parliament. Member of parliament, they enjoy parliamentary privileges. They also enjoy the right freedom of speech and expression. So this thing will make the matter even more ugly. Okay. Dharani, Animal and Dunia, Jakpal, Govind. Okay, good morning. Fine, guys, so that is all for the today's session. With this, we come to an end to this session. Guys, if you have liked the video, please do hit the like button. Please do comment. I personally go through each of your comment, and I even remember the names of the students who comment frequently. Fine, so that is all.